So, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has been my main game on stream, and the second one actually continues in your adventure as Henry in mid sort of 15th century medieval Europe. So, in the game, as you assume the role of him, you're, developing your identity as the blacksmith, the lover, the fighter, the rebel.
Oh my God.
And honestly, this world is absolutely alive as you go from each town to city, whether you're in, the bustling sort of areas or the quiet, beautiful forests. There's always, different day to be had in there. And something that I love about this game is that, you never know who you're going to meet around the corner. They could be a friend or a foe, but there's, many quests, and it's really a choose your own kind of adventure. You can be a, charismatic prince kind of charming guy, or you could be, the little stealth archer in the shadows. And that's really fun to be able to define who you are despite also playing as Henry and seeing how his adventure goes. And there is a recap of the initial game if you didn't play the first one, and it will make you want to play the first one. So I've been having so much fun with this one, and you can have little bite-sized pieces each time you come in, make a little bit of progress, and then you've got a bit of a revamp of the UI. So it's such a delight to be able to, experience this adventure and build yourself up, deck yourself out in some nice, armor too. I feel like you can have a bit of fashion whatever game you play. So that's been a really fun part to, have your beautiful armor then, splattered in blood. But I don't know if people notice too much, or maybe they just won't say anything to you.
Who are you playing as? Are you the lover, the blacksmith, the fighter, the stealthy archer? A little bit of everything.
I'm trying to be a charismatic kind of like conversational person. But unfortunately, it seems my intellect is quite low, so that kind of brings me down a lot. I always have this issue, when you have to choose your points and everything, there's going to be something you miss, and at the last moment, it's like, oh.
Sexy, suave, and dumb at dinner parties.
I'm trying to be really cool, calm, and collected, but I'm awfully stupid.
It is an interesting spin on like this immersive. This isn't fantasy. Well, it's a type of fantasy, but it's not ogres and demons fantasy. It's a true to life, true to our world medieval setting. But typically from video games, you kind of would expect to be in a game like this, a blank slate, and you go in and you kind of create an RPG character and build them and go. They have Henry here who has his own personality, but not as much as like Geralt, right? Geralt kind of, you feel like you're steered in a direction by the heroic nature of that character.
Shepard.
Sorry?
Or like Commander Shepard from
Or
Mass
Shepard,
Effect.
You're kind of like driven by their heroism, innate heroism.
Yeah.
So you feel like you need to be good and you need to be this and you need to be that. Henry's just like a dude.
He's a dude, and sometimes he'll say something. I'm like, why'd you say that, Henry? You've just ruined this conversation. He's
You
so
dumb
funny.
Henry. Dumb, sexy Henry.
I like that there's so many options to decide things, but you still have that like level of disconnect where you're like, you idiot, Henry, why'd you say that?
Did you play the first one?
I have played a lot of the first
Yeah,
one,
okay.
and something that was a bit of a challenge was the combat. It is this real-time kind of very strategic fighting system where instead of just, swinging your sword straight forwards, you got this directional system.
Yep.
And I think that really adds this interesting layer to the combat where you can sort of feel like you're really engaging in the world, being there, thinking about your next sort of shot and everything. So
It was a clunky time. Like, warfare wasn't a smooth, because I saw even people pointing out the crossbow reloading or whatever is just like, it's like a 5-minute quick time event, but it's like, it's what it would have been back then.
Yeah.
I think it talks to the how immersive this game is. In Skyrim, you're fighting all the time, and you want to. In this, you're trying to avoid combat more often than not, right? That's a choice that you can make, but that's my instinct in a game like this with complicated sword fighting is like, I'm not guaranteed to win every time I engage in combat. It's quite challenging. So it kind of encourages you to explore the other systems that are in the game.
I guess you can make it interesting, but not fun in the traditional sense. So you're like, I'm not dying to get back in there.
It's fun. It's just hard, and you want to engage with the story more than you want to engage with the combat.
Absolutely.
I find.
Yeah, it's not too punishing, and it's something that you can actually practice and feel like you're getting better
Yeah,
without
nice.
having to do, the fight 50 times like other sort of games.
Yep.
And something else I love about the game is that, you've got these taverns, little towns everywhere, and the dice game is probably one of the most interesting parts. I've actually then bought real dice in real life to play the game that's in this
So you're a gambler now.
No, there's no stakes.
Yeah, have you heard of Elatra?
Are you the kind of person who, because again, I've heard a lot of people talk about this game and it is like a make or break for some people to say the nuance of the minutiae of all the actions can be absolutely mind-numbing in a fascinating way because some people really enjoy that. That's something you obviously get a kick out of in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you carry all 5 sacks to the pantry when you were given the opportunity to?
I did. I'm a good guy.
Nice.
I'm a good guy. I carry sacks.
Do you have, again, like part of what I think is really fascinating about, I think I played the first game. I played a vertical slice of this. I haven't jumped into it since release. But I found myself wandering, like you're talking about. There's so much wildlife out where there's no little towns. There's always something to follow.
Yeah.
I find myself just following movement. They've just built a really full experience to explore. Are you finding that you just jump in and do a stream where you don't progress a story, you're just in it?
There was this bandit camp that I had to go and defeat, and I probably did about 5 runs trying to do it, still failing to this day. But exactly, you can get so wrapped up in all these different things, and you really make your own objectives while you play through the objectives.
Yeah. I think like, you know, Skyrim is littered with like procedurally generated caverns, and you kind of do that and it feels like checklisty as opposed to, that's not fair to what Elder Scrolls does really well, which like you have those moments that are really memorable, but it's not, I would argue, not as immersive as something like this, where the most memorable things that'll happen in this game are the moments that happen upon you while you're out walking. Yeah.
And you're streaming it a lot in terms of like, I imagine having an audience can kind of help carry some of the more mundane moments in this. Again, I'm not trying to sound like I'm giving it grief for that, but it does sound like having people there to be like, all right, I guess we're doing this.
It's a bit of a road trip sometimes to get from A to B,
Yeah.
but you never know what you're going to see along the way. So yeah, it is alive.
Such an
It reacts.
optimistic peasant.
You have to be.
I'd be like, I'm not leaving this town, and you're like, oh, what's down the road? Another ambush.
Yeah. Ooh, more dice.
Yeah, there may be, my house might be filled with trash, but it's my trash. and I really
I'll
love
roll you
it.
for it. Come on.
How are you finding what you've experienced of the main quest?
I think it's quite interesting. A lot of people might have been put off the first game due to some of the pacing, but I think if you stick it out, you really do get to experience this really cool setup of the story, and I love it, really.
Yeah, that's good.
Jimmy Thickness in the chat. I'm 25 hours in, and I haven't advanced the main quest at all. I like to hope that you're wandering around and not just really bad at the game. Like,
Still carrying those sacks.
yep.
Yeah. I really like that it's like achievably aspirational. It's like, this guy's a blacksmith and he's like, maybe I could be like a paladin, like well, like a fighter, like a knight, not a paladin. That's too fantasy. Like that, you're not trying to be the savior of Bavaria or Bohemia.
Yeah, you suck at the game at first.
Yeah.
You know, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
It feels like, and the game's trajectory has done a similar kind of thing. And like, I'm not surprised, but like, I'm glad how well this is done and how enduring this has been for a game that is a niche kind of game. But again, it had its testing ground with the first one. It found part of an audience there that were willing to follow it across to this. And again, whatever polish, like you mentioned, it has all been to the benefit of actually people are still playing this and they're still talking about it and they are raving about it. It's like current game of the year. I know it's early, but it's like people are saying that. People have been knocked off their horse just riding under a branch and they're like, game of the year.
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
they're already at 2 million copies sold. I think they've caught up to how many copies the first game sold across its, I guess 5-6 years since it came out. So
It's a hilarious game. Like, I'm sitting there laughing at the dialogue. It's, that's why I love that it's so rich. You really do get to feel immersed in it. It's not just sort of do this, do that. It's a hoot.
yeah,